A couple years ago, David and I sat down to talk through our best of NAB. Today, we did a bunch of live streaming, but hopefully, for the sake of making it a little bit briefer for people who don't want to watch the full live stream, thought we'd sit down and talk through kind of our best of show. So I've got Adam, David, and Oscar here with me. We're going to talk about kind of our highlights or best of, so that in case you don't want to watch all the live stream, although I think it was a lot of fun to do it and kind of interact with you guys on chat, this will be more of like a condensed version. I'd like to start with Oscar because this is your first NAB. Right. The rest of us have been here before, so I just wanted to get your thoughts. Like, what was it like being the first time?
NAB 2017 with these fellas, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I didn't realize how big. You guys told me how big it was going to be. I didn't realize how big it was actually going to be when it came to all the equipment they fit into that place. It was insane. But top moments, right? Yeah. First one is that simulation. Not because of the bird. There was a bird simulation he was on. It was silly. Really stupid. I thought. Because I asked the guy, what's this purpose of it? It's because they're designing the buildings. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was cool because they designed buildings for the Avengers. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I even took their card. Like, how? I'm like, man, that must have, the first time I saw the Avengers, that must have been crazy shooting in New York like that because it looks so real. Oh, no, we made that. Like, oh, okay, cool. Awesome. That was the company that made it. I asked myself that question last week when I was watching Avengers. Like, who did that? And these guys like, we did that. So that was really cool. It was like, oh, wow, I thought of it, and it was right in front of me. So that's number one. Number two is...
How silly did I look doing the flapping?
The perfect amount of silly.
Perfect amount.
But it wasn't what you were necessarily doing. Like it had nothing to do with what we're trying to sell.
Not necessarily.
I don't know. Like
It was fun for me to be in the simulation, but I'm sure I looked like a total idiot. Like
at some point, it was you were diving and
you
tried to recover, and you did recover, but your head was like, "You're
not gonna die."
The guy was trying to calm you down. He's like, "Easy, just lean up, just lean up. That's all you have to do." And you're like,
"Easy,
I need to get up."
Turn it off.
The guy was like, "He's gonna break our booth, babe."
No. This is our first
He's
booth.
like, this is our booth, babe. And he's going to break it.
This machine.
I didn't break it.
He's like, this is a rental.
Number two is, besides all the equipment there was, like the Ronin stuff, it was interesting to see how many copies of the originals there were. Like, I saw all their gimbals that looked just like the Ronin, cheaper, they function very similarly. So I didn't know they could do that. I'm like, these look like copies of these other ones. Mm-hmm. They may be better, I'm not sure, but I like that.
There was the one booth that I even point out, like their logo is a straight up ripoff of DJI's logo. Like it's F-Fly or something. Yes. Yeah. And they do like gimbals or drones or something very similar. And yeah, there is a lot of that. Once something enters the market, all of a sudden everyone else kind of copies and clones it.
So that was surprising for me. I'm like, you guys are brave because those boys are right there.
Yeah.
You guys are copying me down the hall. Oh, that was cool. But also you. With your phone, streaming all this stuff. Like, I was surprised, like, wait a minute, people know Strons? That's kind of cool. And that was a cool moment. Because it seemed like you had some influence in a way. So I like that, too.
I mean, I think the live stream in general, the idea of live streaming, like, we thought about it a couple years ago, and then to actually implement it 2 years later, and still, everyone was surprised watching us walk around, and then they actually brought it up. They were like, oh yeah, there's some guy walking around live streaming. It's like, yeah, it's this guy.
This guy is
He's like, oh, hey, what's going on? And I'm assuming people thought it might have been a more of a setup than it actually was, and it turned out just to be your phone.
Well, and I mean, for the longest time, I was physically unable to do anything like that because YouTube wouldn't let you do it without any kind of like weird third-party apps, and I've done that before. It's just kind of a little bit shady. But now the YouTube implementation's actually on the app, and they've opened it up so it's not as limited for how many subscribers you need. And so it was, I mean, watching the playback and stuff, it looks and sounds, I think, pretty good for being just a phone.
Yeah, considering how loud it was in the convention center.
Yeah.
But that's just cool because you gave so much love to everybody. So not all of them had like people recording behind the scenes stuff. You did it for almost the whole place. So
like
everyone got
3
camera
hours
time.
of content.
You know, they should have just came in with the drop. This is me, you know, and then you're responsible for that.
Well,
so
and what's cool about that too is there's so much of the convention, like, so last year I came with another YouTuber that you interviewed, Ted Willis, which was a really good video to kind of get a perspective on his channel, which is a lot more about travel, right? So when we came, there's so much that was left out of our trip last year in his ending video that he decided wasn't that interesting, right? But with the live stream and the fact that it's going to get even better, like next year you could do it the same, but have a better quality camera maybe or whatever, because it's continually adapting and becoming more and more high quality. So the fact that they can just tune in and experience it with you for such a casual and long period of time where it's not so structured, you're not trying to like continually focus the message like, oh, this is what I think is cool and it's like, what does the audience think is cool? And I think that's so reflected in what NAB is doing right now. The VR is bigger. There's huge sections that we started with that obviously we didn't spend a lot of time in, where it's just about like streaming and software and all of that side to it, which is like a whole building in the convention hall. That's just talking about like, you can broadcast as a person, right? There's booths that have technology that allow you to even have switchboards that are controlling multiple phones. Like you have three iPhones and a tablet, and the tablet's controlling the three iPhones, and you can live switch a YouTube channel, right? So it really kind of plays to that idea that you don't have to be a major conglomerate to create good content and connect with your audience. And that's a huge difference, because we're finding, like we just said too, so many lenses are like micro four thirds lenses. So many lenses and so much gear, like the gimbals are the single hand gimbals. It's not just... It wouldn't be too long ago where
it's very
everything in there is professional. If you're not rigged to a truck or a helicopter or something like that, then you're not considered worthy of being there almost. But now it's like, if you don't have a small GoPro handheld gimbal and you're a gimbal company, then you haven't showed up properly. And that's kind of the reality of it now.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that mix between the high-end, like really expensive, probably not something any individual is going to buy on their own. It's like a company purchase or a rental. Seeing that stuff right next to something that like, we could go out and buy tomorrow at Best Buy or whatever it is, and having those both kind of compete in that professional space, like what I've been talking about for the past 3 years of like using the GH4 professionally. And yeah, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of some of the higher end like video cameras, but for a hybrid camera, being able to shoot 4K and do that so compact and just in one easy to run around with camera, like what we're shooting with right now, it's like, it's incredible, the technology and where it's come. And what I enjoyed about the live stream, and I hope everyone else did, was that it was a chance for people to experience NAB the way that we all experienced it. Because I remember coming a couple of years ago, I've been watching videos about NAB for years, and it's very manufactured the way you experience it. And so when we came, it was almost overwhelming. And like, I don't know if you had that too, Oscar, where it's just like, there's so much, there's so many things to see. And like, people are asking, like, oh, what do they have here? And it's like, I don't really know. There's not really a good way to know what's the newest stuff unless you're looking at press releases online. But it's kind of fun to be in that chaos and not really know which booth you're going to go to next and just kind of run around and that's the NAB experience, I think. And that's one of my top things about the show, is just going around interacting with people. Like, you mentioned people like recognizing me, but like there's so many other people that like are in the industry, and you can spot them a mile away. You're like, oh, I know that guy. I watch his videos. That's so cool. And you can go up and say hi. And one of the coolest things about this community is that everyone's cool with it. Like no one cares. No one's like, oh, why are you talking to me? It's just like, oh, hey, how's it going? We're like shaking hands with, pretty much anyone you've seen on YouTube talking about video production or filmmaking, like they're all here. And like, people see me and come up and say like, oh, hey, how's it going, man? Like, I love your videos. And it's like, that's so cool to hear and to have a whole community and a group of people where we're all into the same stuff. It's just like a big, like a club in high school, where everyone's like into the same thing. Even though we're like spread across the country or spread across the planet, we're all into the same thing, and we can talk about it just as easy. Like, we ran into Max Yuriev and Vadim, his camera guy, and like we're just able to like talk, and it's not even a big thing. It's almost like we know each other because we've seen each other's content. There's that like familiarity, even though we have no idea who each other is, but you can shake hands and immediately start talking about something that you're interested in. And that's like one of my best things about NAB. I said it this morning when we were getting ready to get on the plane, is just that like you can see on Instagram like everyone who's going, and you'd be like, oh, like I might run into that person today. I could see them. And like you do, and it happens, and you can, and if you have a question, you can ask them, or you can like make a friend or whatever it is, and it's just so cool to like network, but not in like a business sense of just like making real connections with people who you watch every day.
Yeah, and I think that's actually kudos to the industry, because just last year, one of the gimmicks that was used by ICANN was to have one of the guys from LMFAO like playing with a gimbal, right? And it was funny, like, to see him and be like, oh, hey, that's the guy.
That's the guy.
That's the guy. But what's weird is, what does he have to do with production, right? Like, I've never heard of him being someone that's like, oh, I went from music and I'm in production now. I like it. That's kind of my thing now. But now we have influencers that are YouTube influencers, and they became so powerful and so important as being regular guys who shoot and regular guys who use the equipment like we do. Mm-hmm. And they're more important. And they're to the tune where we saw booths that had those guys just hanging out. We got to meet them, and it was casual and chill. And then there was booths where those guys were paid to be there.
And that's one of the things where ambassadors for any company, it seems like they're more important now than they were 2 years ago.
Oh,
because
yeah.
2 years ago, it was all about, like, the top of the line, like, people who are shooting for CNN, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, those guys, and, like, those would be the ones that are speaking. Mm-hmm. But now it's so many people are creating their own content on YouTube, posting it on Instagram or social media, and those are the people that they want at their booths now. It's like, okay, yeah, forget the people who are making, like, the high end stuff.
Get the commercials.
Get the people that are making content, because, like, what was it, Rokinon and Xeen? They were like, become an ambassador, and then we'll give you a discount on our products, like, immediately, because we just want the content, and we know you can create it.
So
that's weird. It's kind of cool though. Mm-hmm. They know how much that sells versus like, oh, do you know about lenses? It doesn't matter. Just if you're into this, you're gonna love it. You know.
It puts a lot of faith in your product too.
Yeah,
like it's really not products. About. It's not about like, oh, we pay X actor to tell you this is good.
Yeah, it's
not about that anymore. It's about like, we truly have to have a good product, because it is so easy to prove when we're lying.
Yeah,
like if it's not a good product, like look at GoPro right now.
Yeah,
like, we spent zero time at GoPro, because as much as they're like, we're awesome, everyone knows they had a crap year. Everyone knows that their products were not great this year, right? So you can't get past that, because all of those influencers online are taking their product, using it, and saying, guys, it's just not what they're saying it is.
Yeah.
You can't sneak it past anybody.
We'll be on YouTube the next day.
Yeah, I told you guys, you weren't with me, but it was on the live stream. I was walking down one of the aisles towards, I think I was going towards Sigma, and I hear like, Strons! And I'm like, turn around, and it's the guys from Bongo Ties who I've like talked about a couple times, and they're like, oh yeah, so good to see you, and they're a company where like they have these like little like rubber ties you can tie up cable and whatnot, but like it's such a useful tool. It's cheap. It's it's a piece of rubber with a piece of bamboo on the end, and I use them all the time. And so like I've made videos about them, and they do a nice thing where they're like, oh, if you make a video about us, we'll send you another pack for free. I think they actually send you 2 packs. Like they're very generous, but it's like I have no problem talking about them and how great their products are, even though it's a simple piece of rubber with a piece of bamboo on the end. It's still, to me, the versatility of this and how handy it is makes it just so fun to even talk about and recommend, and that's why like I've got a discount code with Lens Rentals right now, and that's because it's like I love using Lens Rentals. Like I love their service. It's not about like them paying me or anything. It's just about genuinely being into their stuff. And like Rokinon, they had a thing where it's like, I love Rokinon lenses, and we'll give you an extra entry into our sweepstakes. And it's like I have no problem doing that,
because you already run Rokinon.
Because I like Rokinon lenses. Right. If you make a good product, people are willing to talk about that. So I was going to ask you, David, what was kind of your like best of show, or like some of your highlights from the day?
Honestly, so we were at NAB 2 years ago. We didn't come last year. There was a conflicting shoot, so we weren't able to come.
Work comes first.
Right, exactly.
So me.
Yeah.
So we were able to come this year, but what was surprising to me was like even the biggest booths that we saw 2 years ago, which DJI was probably like the biggest booth that we saw, and then this year we come and it's a fraction of the size, maybe like a quarter of the size that they had, and just that was the standout for me personally, seeing that it wasn't nearly as big. So maybe I was expecting more, but I was a little less. I think the only...
Is that DJI or like whole experience?
DJI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the whole experience as a whole... Like 2 years ago, there was a lot of announcements, right? Like Blackmagic was coming out with a lot of cameras.
Yeah.
And like this year, there wasn't many announcements made at NAB.
The
Like,
Ronin 2 is basically the only real...
yeah, like you heard about it before we got there. So there
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
anything to see once we got there, unfortunately.
But that is interesting because I feel like, sorry, but
No.
like, I think they did that on purpose because they've always been the novel company. Now they'll get to see other people what they're doing differently and what people are more attracted to because you could track everything through those scans. So if people are going towards this or that, they could just take note because all they have is the stuff from last year anyways. You're not losing anything. So they go, oh, that's what they want. We'll make a better version of that.
Right.
Pretty smart if you ask me. They're not putting all their eggs in that basket because they go, hey, we used to be the novel ones. And boom, these guys are the new ones. We're just going to see what they want, which is like you, right? They want that.
Right.
That we're listening to them now. We're going to give them something else. But with the black magic or the DJI quality.
Right.
Well, also companies will release stuff when they know other companies are releasing it, so that they don't get forgotten. So this year, I feel like this year in general was an off year, right? So and last year was a big drone year and a VR year, but it was kind of on the coattails of 2 years ago, right? So I feel like next year is going to be a big release year for NAB, where a lot of companies are all trying to jostle for position again and ride that up for the next few years. Because that tends to be the case. Like look at like DJI didn't need a big booth about the Mavic Pro because the Karma was recalled. So they don't need to prove anything, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't even have a Mavic flying when we walked by. Both times they didn't have a Mavic. They had the Inspire. So it's like, why do we're not competing. We don't have to compete because the Chrome.
Yeah, they're
Chrome
sold. They're sold already.
Yeah. So they're not jostling for position, which means it's like, well, we can lay low.
I mean, there's definitely something like NAB is still like the mecca where everyone comes and everyone shows up. But I think that's changing, and it has been changing for some time. Like Red is no longer here at NAB. They're doing, I think, just like Cinegear and maybe a few other expos. But I think last year they said that like they're done with NAB. We talked about, you know, how it's like the consumer level stuff is coming up and kind of cross-pollinating with the higher level professional stuff. And like NAB is really meant for like broadcasters. And it's just become this huge thing, and maybe it's almost too big, where like DJI, they're, you know, a consumer electronics company in a lot of ways, where like the Mavic is not a high-end professional drone, it is a consumer level thing, but like that's made them so much money, I assume. I don't know their financials, but I assume that's been really successful for them. And the other stuff that they do, like their little Osmo, you know, controllers, like they don't, aside from the Ronin 2, and some of their like high-end drone stuff, they don't have like their main income is the cheaper stuff, like Apple, you know, where they kind of switched away from the pros with the Mac Pro and the high-end Mac computers to like iPhones and iPods and the cheaper stuff. So I would imagine that like over the next couple years and long term, that like the stuff that's like everything's at NAB right now, and maybe that's starting to fade away. And there'll be these other expos that pop up that are more specific, more tailored to specific groups, whether it's like independent film or, you know, just like YouTube, you know, video production, or, you know, just like sort of specialize more, just because NAB is so big and there's so much, and like we're in one wing and everyone's like, well, who are these companies? Like we were on the live stream and everyone's like, why, what, who are these people? Why are you looking at them? And it's like, well, this is like the whole building is just these companies you've never heard of.
Right.
And we got to go to the other wing where it's like the cool stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be smaller though. I think it's just going to be a breakout opportunity for like smaller companies that are unique and different, trying to innovate, because so much of the media market has become these independent content creators that those people are looking for ways to improve their quality on a low budget and in a simple way. Like, for example, you know, DJI will always be there, I think, because DJI has that option of a stabilized camera for under $1,000, right? But you may not, like, we may not see, well, Red's not there anymore, right? So eventually you may be looking at where Panasonic may not have any of their broadcast stuff in there. It's only their DSLRs, their mirrorless, and Sony's doing the same thing. Like, you may get to that point where they're just showing like $10,000 cameras and smaller, really.
Yeah.
And then,
Well, I think it would probably be the opposite. I think NAB will stay broadcast, just because that's the nature of it. And like, you know, people ask like, oh, go check out the Sony booth and look at the A9. Like the new A9 camera, a photography camera, is not the reason people go to the Sony booth at NAB. They go for the higher end stuff,
right
the bigger
now.
broadcast cameras. And you think that's going to change away from the broadcast side of things?
Yeah, I think there's too much money and the venue has too much notoriety right now for it not to adapt to where the consumers are.
But you have both, though. That's what I'm saying. Like to have both doesn't hurt anybody. Because there's going to be the person who wants to see the latest new Sony camera, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's, for sure, that person might come, but the consumer's going to come. Because you have the other ones.
Right. There's just a whole lot more people that, like...
Because they see some of those at Walmart
it's all the
too,
dollars
right?
and cents, right? Like, you get one person that goes, checks out XYZ camera, and then says, good, I'm going to spend $50,000 on that camera. Versus the 50 people that are going to go and buy that $1,000 item, right? So you have to think of it in terms of the numbers and where's the money going to go, and then therefore where the vendor's going to go. Like Red goes in there and they're like, you guys can't afford our cameras, so we're just not going to go anymore. Because our cameras are established, everyone knows the quality, and everyone knows the price.
Alexa was there still.
Right? But Alexa, does more broadcast than Red does, right?
Yeah.
So once that starts to push more and more that direction, because what is broadcast now?
Yeah, that's just...
It's like that. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like filmmaking is still that. Like you have your camera, it's single camera. You shot lists and producing and stuff like that for those kind of storytelling techniques, which is more Red, right? But broadcasting now is not what we even thought it was 5 years ago.
What's
right?
funny is like when you asked him about that transition, I think that to have both the products together and they're in love with like the A7 or a DSLR, and maybe they've never had the chance to see the big boy or touch it or feel it, right? And then they might get sold on it because they're like, oh, I've done this so long. What is this? It doesn't seem that
It's
different.
like the tease,
It is literally like if you ask me if I was just with DSLRs and like, what is that? And it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's not that different. I can learn this, and it's like, oh, so you want to take this a lot more serious.
NAB is definitely the place to go if you just want to look at really expensive stuff that you will never be able to afford,
Yeah.
but still drool over anyway. Like just the high-end cinema lenses and the
But it
high-end
creates
cinema
inspiration.
cameras.
Right.
Yeah, and just the lighting options. David, was there anything else that was like a standout or a highlight before we move on to Adam?
Sure. I mean, just this might be something you were going to talk about, but lighting in general. So...
No, you're good, yeah.
Okay,
But
so...
yeah, that's cool.
That's, I mean, something that... So cameras, of course, dropping in price, but lighting as well. And lighting is one of the most important things you can use, obviously, when you're making videos. Unfortunately, lighting in this room right now isn't the best.
Yeah, we probably should have prefaced that at the beginning. This Airbnb that we're in does not have any light in this room that we're filming in, so we pulled in lamps to kind of supplement.
I think
and it still looks
good. It's really soft.
It still looks terrible. But anyway, yes. Let's talk more about the importance of lighting and why it's so important.
But as far as companies creating LED panels or any sort of system that is a lot less expensive than it used to be, the fact that it uses less energy and they're not as hot, right? They're all LEDs. So we saw a whole bunch of companies, Fotodiox, and they have their huge panels that are like soft lighting, right? But they're also fallbacks where they're probably not as like transportable. They're just if you're gonna buy it and stick it in a studio, it'll be fine. But as far as like using it for like kind of what we do, where we travel a lot, might not be the best decision. But of course, when we walk by Airy, like they have all their new lighting systems. Of course, that's
LED.
top of the line. But that's just even their lights are less expensive, even though they're still very expensive. But just technology and LEDs is pretty impressive.
Yeah,
right now,
that was one of my standouts, was going to the Mole Richardson booth, which I probably wouldn't even have think to have gone, but someone in the chat on the live stream was like, go check out Mole Richardson, So we went over there, and they've got the old school, like, film cinema lights that, like, everyone, you look at it and you're like, oh, that's a movie light. But they've got them rigged out with LEDs now, and we were looking at the one that's like an equivalent of like a 10,000 watt tungsten bulb, but it's a 1500 watt LED, and just the light output on that and seeing it in action and seeing like it doesn't get hot. You can start it right up. It's like there's so many benefits in having the light quality. He's talking about CRI of like upwards of like 93, 94. Like everything about it is just and granted, it's a $14,000 light, I think is what he said. Like it's still expensive and it's big. It's not portable.
Right.
But having that the old school power and what that means and the look that gives you in something that's a lot more practical for nowadays filming, where you don't have
Safer.
safer. Like
what would you have
that
spent?
was a huge standout for me, just seeing that and just being like, wow, like that's
transition.
something that's really expensive that like I want, and like. And you'd have to probably like park it in your garage. It's so big, but that's.
But how much 5 years ago? How much would a 10K cost?
A tungsten
Like
light,
a tungsten Airy 10K.
Oh, I didn't even look at them.
Right.
This is like, I mean,
So when he says
probably
14,000
cheaper. But still
not within
in like
the realm of
But
possibility.
like, okay, why do I? Okay, 10,000 watts. How am I going to get power for that? How much heat is that going to put off?
Yep.
Like I can't point that on the sets that we're shooting on. Like I can't. No, like, that's like I've got to put it so far away. Got to have a generator. Now there's noise. Like, what am I going to do about that? So it wasn't even like a thing to look at. Why would I look at the price of it? Because I'm not going to use it for the types of shoots that we do. But now where it's like, oh, it's an LED. It's cooler. Takes less power. I could actually use this and get the light output that I want. That punch. Where like I'm looking at HMIs or I'm looking at high wattage tungstens. I can get that now in an LED.
Bigger sets.
With a nice Fresnel lens and a huge, that huge source that can cast this long beam and get that look. Okay, now tell me what's the price on this, because now I'm interested. Now I don't have all those sacrifices that came before, and I'm sure there's downsides to it too. Like it still is big and bulky, but that's also what gives it that look and the nature of it. So that was definitely one of the standouts for me, was hitting up the Mo Richardson booth and seeing that in action. The guy was like so
That
nice
was an
too.
afterthought.
Yeah, it was.
I'm
We were
so
like
glad we
we were
stopped by.
pretty much like on the way out.
I thought that was our last stop, and it was not. Again, this is my first time, so it was a very long walk.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is the last one, right, fellas? Yeah. Canon. I go, oh my god.
And
We just passed Canon.
And I'd say, just as a side note, I don't know how many people are watching this that participated in that live stream, but that's exactly what it was. It was participation. So as opposed to just experiencing it, it was actually interactive. Because, granted, right now your audience was like relatively small. It was like 200 people at a time, and I don't know how many people were like commenting, but they were actually suggesting places for us to go that maybe we didn't we didn't think to go. So the fact that someone out there was like, "Oh, check out this booth. I'm really interested in this product. Sure, let's go check it out." Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we were able to get those interviews with the sales reps, and they were able to tell us information that we found interesting, and I'm sure the people who actually want to know the information got it immediately, as opposed to waiting and hopefully getting it. Hopefully someone got that information, right? Because tomorrow and like the weeks coming, people will be releasing videos, and hopefully hopefully that video comes out that they wanted to know. But if they're actually interacting and asking like, can you talk to them right now? Sure.
That's cool.
Sure, we're gonna go walk there.
And that's the thing, like NAB, it's so big. There's so many different vendors there. There's so many booths. You can't possibly cover it all. And to see every little nook and cranny, and actually spend meaningful time there is impossible. So I have my list of what I think is cool. Like I made it before we came out here, of just like, oh, these are kind of the companies I'd like to check out, and there's some obvious ones on that list. But then you guys were like, oh, let's pop over here, let's go over to Cinebags, let's go do this other stuff. And then people on the live stream saying what they wanted to see. It was just fun because we were all able to kind of like mix and match, and so it was always something new, always something different. For you, Adam, what was kind of your couple highlights from the show that you would say were kind of like the best standouts?
One of the things I thought was really cool, actually, seeing the sumo was pretty cool. It's not something
You
I
like
think
the sumo now?
Well, no. Here's the thing. I wouldn't buy.
You're talking about the Atomos.
I was just told how
Atomos
dumb the
Sumo.
sumo was. Now
But it's not practical for us to buy. Is the
But
thing.
I like
I
it.
don't think it's
But-
practical in any sense.
What are you talking about? It's a monitor.
if you're on
not.
if you're on a
you put it
narrative
on
set
a
where you
stand.
have if you're on a narrative
recorder.
set where you have
And a
clients
monitor is
or
even better.
director that's outside of set, right? And so you have positions that you're gonna want that director behind a monitor,
And your DP
right?
wants to see that.
And your DP, right? So like if you have that budget to be able to do that, that's great. But for like practical use for me right now, I wouldn't have any use for it. But what I did find that was really interesting about that booth is the amount of people who had interest in it and why they had interest in it. I think Atomos had the largest audience of people who were consistently interested in what they had to offer, and the reason why is because they give the ability for you to take an inexpensive camera and get a great image from it.
But they get to learn more about the process too. Like, to understand that monitor and what it does, they have to learn. But they're willing to learn. And then understand it better than realize I need a better camera. Oh, how do you get those values like that?
Or a lot of times you don't need a better camera. Like, look at the GH4.
Yeah.
It's a great camera. You can get a good image internally, but you can get a great
But you know
image
they're gonna.
externally, right? And the fact that when they were talking, like, we partnered. So part of like the rally, the raffle was when you had to sit there and wait for all that. But I did get things out of that in respect to the fact that they said we partnered with this company, and they were able to allow us in our software to do these things.
Major companies.
To give you, like Panasonic, right? To give you more, right? But you can get so much more to the GH5 by using this product. And so it kind of pushes the idea that the real consumer base, the one that's really purchasing and creating content, are the people with those cameras that are like, they're great cameras, but they're not $20,000 cameras. And so you get this $1,000 external recorder, and that gives you ProRes 444 capabilities. So you have this color depth that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, and you have a file format that's going to be a lot smoother for you to use with high quality and high density bit rates. So like those kinds of things really kind of show like where the focus is. Like, people really interested in them, and they were one of the only ones that really announced something really cool recently, which is a 19-inch freaking, and it's kind of silly. Like, for me, only in my head, the image that I have of me using that would force me to mount the camera to the monitor rather than the monitor to the camera.
Oh yeah,
and carry it around. But because it's big, what does it say? It's a 19-inch screen.
It's a 19-inch screen, but it's also a recorder, and that's what I think
which makes it this thick.
Which is what's odd about it, is because you could get a display, a 19-inch display, just as for the director or whoever to look at the feed, but to have a display that's also a recorder is odd. But I will say this about Atomos is, like, they're in a space where they compete with other products like the Blackmagic Video Assist 4K. You've got video devices, the Pixie 5 and the E7. You've also got Convergent Design and the Odyssey 7Q. And so there's a lot of monitor recorders in the space, but Atomos spends a ton of money on their marketing and just making their products as sexy as possible, because, like, they're a company that, I mean, they just make external recorders. That's it. That's all they have. These other companies have a lot of different things. They just do the external screen, external recorders, but they spend a ton of money on their banners outside and inside at NAB, and on their booth. Their booth, I think, is one of the biggest. Aside from maybe Sony, the footprint-wise of those two booths is pretty much equal. And they have they were buying up booth space just to put like nothing there.
Right.
Like, they had so much extra space around their booth, and then they're doing the raffle thing, and they do a really good job building the hype around their product. So I do agree with you, Adam, that, like, what they offer is this step up in class for anyone who's shooting on a DSLR or mirrorless, or kind of what's seen as like prosumer cameras that are like cheaper, more of like, oh, it's just, you just got that little dinky thing. But being able to get ProRes, 422, 8-bit, or now 10-bit with the GH5, having those options, and it not being limited to the internal codec that's usually underpowered, having that step up in quality for color grading or just for resolution or whatever it is really, really attractive. And I don't think it's a surprise that not only Atomos, but all the other people in that same business have, I think, very successful products. I mean, when I saw the Video Assist, when Blackmagic announced that a year or two ago with the Video Assist 4K, it's like, oh, $900 and I can get all the quality I've been dying to get out of the GH4 and I just haven't been able to get. Yeah, sign me up. Absolutely. It's, like, yes, please, give it to me.
Right.
Was there anything else that stood out for you?
It was interesting to see the difference between the size and scope of the booths last year, like DJI and GoPro, and then to see like it shrink down.
How much smaller was it then?
Half the size, probably. And
it was still populated well though.
DJI is always like a really popular thing, but it's interesting too because like companies like Defy and their stuff, like their original stuff that made them popular, it was like nowhere to be found in their booth because they do all cable stuff now. But even their booth was like they didn't have their gimbal on their RC cars, they didn't have their gimbal on their drones, they didn't have any of that, and it was almost like empty. It was just this weird thing, and then it was also really fun to talk to GoPro. It was super fun to talk to GoPro because I essentially walked over and I was like, oh hey, and they're like, pimping out the drone, and I was like, oh, I almost bought one of those. And they're like, oh yeah, I was like, yeah, but then you recalled them and I bought a Mavic, and they're like, no, you didn't. I was like, yeah, of course I did. I was like, I'm a huge fan of GoPro, have been since the Hero 2, and
see what happens, right?
And the 4 came out and I was like, that's awesome. Like the 4 silver, I think is the best GoPro ever made. For the value, right? The price with the screen on the back and everything, it was the best GoPro they made. And then they went and screwed it up. And it was like one of those things where I was like, why did you make that decision? You made the session and it was like a mistake, and you knew the pricing was a mistake, but you didn't fix it fast enough. And then you made a freaking stupid drone that falls out of the sky. And it was a genius idea to just say, for $1,000 you can get a GoPro, a gimbal, and a drone. Mm-hmm. And it's all smart and intelligent, and the software works. Oh, great. If you had delivered that, there's no way I would have bought a DJI. Because what I wanted was those 3 things. And you failed, and so guess what? I bought a DJI. And guess what? That drone's awesome. So it's like, it was kind of interesting to kind of say, you guys had a rough year. And have them say, yeah, we did. But this is how we're trying to make it up. And you're like, okay, well, we'll see.
With that note, right? Your experience was cool because you got to interact with them and they gave you honest commentary back. You gave them their feedback and gave them like literally real life commentary how they can improve the products and make sure they don't make the mistakes again because you literally bought another product over theirs. But you guys also went through like other what do they call it? Booths that didn't have experts. How was that? I felt that was weird because I thought everyone there was an expert until I keep hearing from you guys. Wait. Like, what are you guys talking about? Like, some of these guys are not.
They're literally like
they're sales reps.
So
yeah,
I said it on the live stream, but a big takeaway is that you can't always trust the reps. They don't always know 100%. Like, there are so many different products that they have to represent, and there are so many different little specification things. It's like trying to memorize a spec sheet for like 10 different products. They get stuff wrong sometimes. So people will say, "Oh, this rep said this, and this is breaking news." And I asked a rep a question that someone had asked at the Sony booth, and she said that the A9, the Sony A9, does a 10-bit output on the HDMI. That could be true. But it could also, maybe she just misspoke. Maybe she thought I was asking about a different camera. We went to a lot of different booths, and some people, like, they don't know the price. You ask them, how much is this?
That one booth, what was it exactly? It was just an HDR recorder, the camera itself.
The 8K camera?
Yeah, and you were asking, like, how much is this camera?
He was 6,000?
like, 60,000. No, 6,000. No, 600,000.
Well, he was
60.
like
6,000.
We don't really know. We don't really know.
I was
we
like,
don't really know.
How
It's
do you
not
not know if
determined.
it's between $6,000 and $500,000?
Yeah.
But
I remember seeing a 6 somewhere.
It was 6 followed by
Remember this type in the
0.
phone number, but it also could
Not quite sure.
And just like you guys were commenting this commentary, I bet next year they're gonna be like, "Who is dropping the ball?"
Well, it's difficult. Just like if anyone were to come up to you on the street and ask you like some technical spec on a particular product that you might have in your bag, like, "Hey, what is the thing on the GH4 or what is this on the MacBook or what?" And you'd be like, I don't know. Let me check. Let me look at my, what operating system are you operating on right now? What year was your MacBook made? It's like, let me check because, granted, they're sales reps, so they should know everything. They should. But it is a challenge too in some regard, and you can really tell the difference. Like you're talking to somebody, like we went to a few booths, and they were like awesome reps there. They really like cared about the product and the company and what they were doing, what they're offering. And then other times, it's just they've got like so many different products. The company's so big that like for like a Sony, the Sony booth, there's so much stuff there. And for other, Atomos, they've got, some external monitors that also record, and like they're all kind of similar. So you just have to kind of know the differences between them. But those are drastically different companies that you have to represent.
Well, and the thing that's interesting too is it's so much cheaper for them just to throw anyone to fill the space rather than like shooters. Like you have to imagine the vast majority of the people who work for Sony don't shoot, film, record anything.
But even if you were in that situation or I was in that situation, there's going to be questions that stump me,
Right.
or I'm going to misspeak, or it's going to be the end of the day and I'm tired and I say the wrong thing, and then someone takes it as like fact or truth, and like you just got to check. And the nice thing about those specs or like those technical questions is that they're usually pretty easy to find online.
Mm-hmm.
You go to B&H, you go to Amazon, you go to eBay, wherever it's listed, and you just look what resolution does it, what frame rate, what's the dynamic range, and a lot of that stuff is right on the placards too. So you don't necessarily need the rep. I kind of like use the reps when it's like I have a question that I'm not getting an answer to immediately, or I just want to have a conversation about it, you know. And like the guy at Mo Richardson, you know, we were asking him questions like, what's the CRI? And he was like, I mean, like 96 for this one, and I think like 93 or 94. So he wasn't like that sure, but he like,
But he knew it.
but he knew it, yeah. He knew it, and he was able to talk about the product in a smart way.
Right.
And so like it's a mixed bag.
It is, because like let's say you said shooters, right? And I'm like,
Well, shooters and
I
engineers.
wouldn't want shooters to be answering. I would like to have the people who create the darn thing.
The engineers.
Engineers, because I'm like, I'm a creative. I like how certain things look. I don't know exactly how that thing was made, but some people do. And they'll tell me, you want this color, you want this type of look, then you got to get this.
Yeah,
and
but
we got to get that.
But I don't need to know what the ones and zeros went into the software, right? But what I do want to know is what frame rates can I shoot?
Yeah.
And shooters would know that.
Oh, yeah.
Right, like what frame rates can I use at what resolution and what bit rate?
But so should they, because to them it's not
Right.
creative. To you it's creative because you want to make creative decisions. To them, they should just know the data. 60, 30, 24, or
Yeah.
20.
No, I agree.
Well,
I think it
they don't know
would
what it,
behoove
they
a
don't
lot
even
of
have to
these
know what it
companies
means. Like, I don't know
put
what
an engineer
2020 looks
in
like,
there.
but it's 120.
The Panasonic guys, when we went into that dark room where they were showing the 5000 ISO or whatever it was,
Yeah, on the Varicam.
they really knew,
Oh, yeah.
like, not only that it looked good,
That was
but
amazing.
why it looked good. And then that was really cool to say, oh, well, you know, it's dual exposure, but not really. It's kind of, and he like went through and explained. Like,
Yeah, he
this
corrected
is
me. He's
how.
like, it's not dual exposure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like,
This
it
is just
seems
another
like, but it's
native
not. It's
file,
like two feeds, but it's one or the other. And so you're choosing between those two. Oh, okay, that makes sense. But he's actually explaining like what's happening between the chip and the brain and then the memory, like the memory card.
And they cared. Like, you saw those guys fumble in the back going, hey, we have to make sure it looks perfect because this is kind of... To me, it was novel because I saw that light. It was half the brightness of this light. And
It was
looked
dark.
There was
beautiful.
no light in there.
Yeah.
No light. Literally, it was a faint light from I
Yeah.
don't know where.
Yeah.
And it's had almost little to no noise.
But that's one thing I would have to say was one of my favorite things was to walk in and see that. Because if you go to any of the other booths, so like tons of the booths have these stages where there's actors and blah, blah, blah. And you film those actors and they're all lit. But usually they're lit super bright, super soft. So it's like we're gonna create these cameras and we're gonna pimp them out as being like these amazing dynamic ranges with awesome low light capabilities, and like we're gonna say all these things about the cameras that make them sound like you can pretty much do anything with them, and then we're not gonna let you do anything with them.
Yeah, they're literally locked in.
Right, you're not allowed to see what the grain looks like in a dark room. But Panasonic's like, prove us otherwise.
Give me the worst
Right,
environment.
like we're gonna give you almost no light, and we're gonna show you what the grain looks like. And when you go, wow, we'll go, see, told you so.
'Cause you already know
that
what it
is
looks like already.
bold.
Yeah.
You know, and so I have a lot of respect for them like that. And
That
I
was
think
bold because they were
Yeah.
at the back, like, hold on.
as soon as I saw
hold
that
on.
room, I was
Yeah.
like, I need to go in there because look how dark that freaking room
Literally,
is.
like, this can't mess up right now because this is literally everything. This little low light situation. I thought it was really cool because I was hearing those guys like, we got to fix this right now because something was happening with the thing you were
The
talking
feed
about.
to the bigger monitor because they wanted people to see the bigger monitor.
Yeah.
It's like a 22-inch monitor, and they're like, this is what people want to see the grain in the blacks. Okay.
They would like go, oh, she's cute, that's cool. Let's look at the monitor, and it's like we're looking at the grain like, wow,
That's impressive.
and the monitor's huge. It's
Yeah.
not small. Like,
Anything else that stood out to you guys?
Better booth babes. They need better booth babes.
Well, they actually put clothes on the Atomos
yes.
Yeah.
booth babes.
They did.
No, it was awesome.
2 years ago, they were
Awesome
painted
talent.
on clothes.
Painted clothes.
I don't know what it was last year,
I don't remember.
if you
it wasn't
remember or
memorable.
not. But this year, they had clothes. So,
Oh wait, more. What was that? More swag.
More swag.
More
Yeah, I need
swag.
more swag. I need more hats and T-shirts.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna be like pimping their brand, you got to give me the brand first.
That's true.
Tell 'em,
Not
like, you need more swag.
if you the NAB experience is not getting a lot of swag. You have to kind of ask for it and dig around and find out where it's at. And usually it's for the giveaway or whatever. But sometimes you get some stuff. I think that I think Adam, you said it, that there wasn't a lot of announcements at this NAB, and they could be different next year. I think every year it'll just kind of, we'll see what happens. I think a lot of companies are announcing stuff earlier. So earlier this past week, Sony announced the A9, which was there in like the smallest capacity.
Yeah.
There's like one camera, like one person was talking about it at the Sony booth. GoPro announced a Fusion camera that's like a 360 VR kind of camera. I didn't see that at their booth. I don't think it was there. DJI announced the Ronin 2. And that was there. That was kind of the main presence at the DJI booth, was the Ronin 2, and it's big. It's for larger cameras to carry heavier payloads, and so it's got upgraded features from the old Ronin, but it's kind of the same kind of thing. It's a gimbal stabilization system. And then we talked about it just to wrap things up, but like the Mole Richardson booth, that was really cool seeing those lights. And then there really wasn't like a lot of standouts. It just mostly is like being there, interacting with people with the community, talking to the reps, finding out what, like there was like the Vedra booth we went to. That guy was really cool. We checked out the Vedra lenses. And you get some like tidbits of information. You get to see stuff that you might not normally be that interested in, because you see an announcement online, or like they don't do a lot of marketing. Like the company just doesn't get the stuff out. Like we went to the one gimbal company, like Zhiyun. They make the crane, it's a pretty popular gimbal stabilizer online, but I've never actually used one myself, so we were able to go talk to them. And they've got gimbals for iPhones, and they got gimbals for this, like the stick gimbals for like the GH4 or similar cameras. And it was cool to talk to them and see their product along with all the other companies that make gimbals too, and to kind of look and see, oh, these are pretty common. Like everyone's kind of got them. And then flying as a bird through New York City. Was it New York City? Is that what it's supposed to be?
It was a city. I don't know which one
it was.
it was.
That was silly, but that was fun. There's definitely
I thought it was cool.
Fun.
You get to meet the people who are responsible for a great movie. That's awesome to me. That experience to me was great. To go, oh, you worked on that movie? That what that means to me, because it's not just about broadcasters and YouTubers. Like there's people who admire filmmaking. I go, you're awesome to me right now. More than probably than the other people here, because you got to work on a project that's literally inspired millions of people, consumers.
And I got to fly through the city as a bird. I feel like I was a pigeon. Like I was
crapping on things.
Like I want to say like I was an eagle, but it felt like I was a pigeon.
You died once, right?
Yeah, I died once.
You died once, but then after that you
went low. No one went low from when I saw you went. You were bold.
Someone told me like go down there.
I was all dive, and then you were whoa.
And then I know Panasonic has the Varicam Mini, which is going to be coming out soon. That wasn't like revealed or unveiled. They had it underneath
under a sheath.
A sheath.
Shroud.
So that'll probably be a step up from the GH5, but a step down from the Varicam LT. It's rumored or speculated to be the Varicam Mini. What's up?
Remember those green screens that had whole production environments?
Yeah, the virtual sets.
Like the projection?
That was interesting.
The tracking.
Yeah.
Like
virtual sets.
That's really cool. I know it lines up with the whole bird experience, right? It's all virtual, but some of those sets look really real.
And some of them look really fake.
Really, exactly, and really fake as well. So, but I was impressed. Like, wow,
all that technology, and you're buying that.
Like we just lost like 4 jobs. All you need is a software developer now to do it all. Like, okay, what color you want the cabinet? Green? Sure. You want the paint? Nope. Got him. Let's go. Like, oh wow, cool but awesome.
Update textures.
Yeah, literally. Sorry.
Cool, guys.
Is it too bold to say that the fact that we streamed it live was the most interesting part about NAB 2017?
I mean, it was fun. We're gonna do it again tomorrow, so we'll check out some other stuff that we probably didn't get to see today. There's always more stuff to look at, and then I think one of the hardest things from the show floor is being plugged into all the news and like the announcements. So looking through that stuff tonight, seeing if there's anything that we need to go check out, like intentionally like make a point to go to a booth, hunt these people down to check out a new product. We can do that tomorrow. But I think for today, it was a lot of fun just to kind of walk around and kind of Wild West it a little bit, not really have a plan or a map, and just go see what we saw.
Are you uploading this tonight?
This will probably be uploaded soon, but I can't promise that it'll be right after this conversation because I want to put some B-roll over top.
True.
That's a lot of work. Okay.
I was just thinking because if someone were to watch this, it's like, oh yeah, tune in tomorrow when we'll be there.
No, don't say tune in tomorrow. Don't
You did already.
We just gotta wrap. We just wrap it up.
Hopefully you already tuned in
Yeah.
to the live. To the live. Was it going to be a 3-parter tomorrow? Probably.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, thank you guys for sitting down and talking through this stuff. Hopefully it was helpful for you as well. Sorry there weren't like more specific products to talk about, but if you've been paying attention to any of the announcements and stuff that's been coming out, it's not a ton of product focused stuff. Or with like there are some new things that you can check out and read about online, but mostly the NAB experience is just that. It's just about the experience of being here. So I appreciate you guys sharing it with me, and I appreciate all of you who have tuned in to live streams and who have watched this content as well. We'll see you later.